Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. Today I am going to review the ATST Raider set from the Mandalorian, which is actually going to premiere the same day that this review comes out, so that's kind of interesting. I certainly hope the show is good. Let's see how well that quote dates in a year or years from now. But anyways, this is set number 75254 with 540 parts. Comes with 4 minifigs, all of which are exclusive to this set. And before you ask, yes, I'm going to do a comparison with the 2016 ATST set, just so you can see what those two models look like side by side. But they're very, very, very similar. Before I jump into the details, let me first just say thank you so much to the LEGO group for sending this set over to us to do a review. And I'm going to be starting the review off with the minifigs first. First up is the Mandalorian himself. He's got some great looking details here. Obviously tons of worn out equipment, an ammo belt that goes along the chest. This is the build for his longer blaster. It's kind of a blaster rifle, and I like that they took that little prong detail. I think that's a direct reference to the Star Wars Holiday Special, which is awesome. The helmet is great. It's obviously the same mold as what would come from the modern Jango or Boba. It's just molded in the gunmetal with a very simple black print for the visor. No battle damage, just a simple Mandalorian helmet. Let me take off his cape to show you the other side. Honestly, I'm having trouble taking off the head, so I just turned the cape around. He doesn't have a face print. It's just a black head, so we'll find out later, I suppose, if you ever see his face, but excellent detailing that goes around the back. Also, the cape here is shorter than the average one. It's just basically tapered off a little bit more on the side so it doesn't flare out so much, but it's basically a pretty normal cape aside from the fact that it's a little bit shortened down. That technically makes this cape an exclusive piece to just this figure, and now we are moving on to Cara Dune. Cara Dune's a really interesting looking character. She too has a really long looking gun, so I kind of have to make sure these other figs are out of her way so she can twist around. So it's just a longer blaster rifle with a little lightsaber blade piece there, but excellent looking print details that make up the body here. She's got a slightly darker skin tone than the lighter flesh, and a pretty good looking expression. She actually does have an expression that you can see. So this is the first one, and she's got a pretty good alternate one. From what I can tell, based on the trailers and stuff, she looks like a pretty good fighter, and I'm curious to see how she pans out in the show, but right now, excellent looking fig. Let's move on to the two bad guys. I'm gonna call them Klatooinians. I hope that's how you pronounce them. We'll find out, I suppose, when the show is released. But yeah, they are kind of similar in prints. Basically, just the pants are, actually that's the only similarity, is the pants and the facial expression for these two guys. They've got a different torso and, of course, different armor and weapons. I really like, just in general, the way these guys look. They use the Ultron jaw piece, which I think is great, and this helmet is molded in gunmetal, which I think is the first time this old school helmet mold has been molded in that color. So there's definitely some things I like about these guys. I think they look pretty good as a couple of bad dudes. Hopefully this action scene is cool, but in general I think the figs really work. Now here is the set. It's a pretty good looking ATST. The one that came out back in 2016, which I'll show you in a second, is almost exactly the same in a lot of ways. The fundamental structure is relatively the same, exactly the same almost, and mostly this is just a cosmetic change-up. So you can see that this leg is, I think, just rusted out completely. It's like really, really brown. This is a red leg, so maybe that means that it belonged to a red ATST. Maybe there's like little mover ATSTs or something, or other types of walkers that are built in red. I would be kind of curious to know that, if there's like an all red ATST somewhere. Who knows? But I do think that's kind of interesting, because I don't think the gang painted it red on purpose, or perhaps they did. Looks like the gang markings are these white stripes that come down the front, and you can see some white stripes along the side and some more on the other side and the front here. So those are the markings. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. That's a sticker. That's another sticker. Lots of stickers in this set. No one's really a big fan, but also at the same time. They don't bother me like a huge amount, but there are lots of stickers on this set, which, I mean, if that's a thing that bothers you, well, you know, it kind of comes with the territory for a playset like this. And then I'm turning the head and not the body, but yes, you can see several along the legs on either side and in the fronts, and of course the feet. The feet are actually very sticker reliant. I don't think the detailing looks bad, but just very, very sticker heavy. So that is definitely a factor in this set. I do like the build for the weapons here. This little joint piece actually looks pretty good as a blaster. And let me show you guys the interior. Righto, so this opens up in a very similar way to the other model, the Rogue One ATST, and the interior is almost exactly the same. Very, very close. So you have a backup blaster in here. The green highlights, I'm not really a fan of, just because, I mean, I guess they put them in there because they're easier to see some of these pieces, but I would have liked, if they're going to bother to do an interior, to kind of not have any of those bright colored highlight pieces on the inside, even though it does make the build slightly easier. There we go, there's that other sticker, not a print. Yeah, so there's the inside. It's basically just got space for one fig, also a sticker on the top. And now I guess I can show you some of the details here on the back. More sticker stuff. Yep. So there's some nice details here. Like, I like some of the details that are coming out here, but let me show you how these legs move around. So the only parts of the legs that can articulate is this joint right here. And in reality, I mean, obviously this thing can't stand up like that. So we've got this point of articulation. The ATSD is kind of leaning forward. It's a slightly more aggressive look, I suppose. It's really easy to move around. You can see that I'm not really trying to be careful. It stands up quite solidly. The balance is pretty good. And then really, if I was to, actually, I don't even think I can. Oh, right, yeah, so you can't, this is the furthest forward you can lean it. So you can't actually ratchet the leg joints any further than that if you wanted to. There's a thing that stops it, but you can ratchet it. Oh, let me try to get it one point out just so I can show you guys. This is the second point, and I think one more point of articulation. If I remember from the 2016 version, I think one more point of articulation is what does it, and it might not be able to, yeah, I don't think it's gonna be able to stand. So it really can only have two different slight ratcheted points. So this is the second point where it's a little bit taller. Still looks pretty good. It's like almost like standing at attention, where the second one, I think it's a little bit more solid. The balance is slightly better this way. This is looking down and forward a little bit. Now what you could try to do is make it sort of look like it's walking. So that's me ratcheting just one of the legs. It's fine. It's sort of, you know, it's not very animated. At some point, we'd really like to work on an ATSD with those incredibly dynamic articulated legs, but for now, I think this works pretty well as a playset. This is the same knob that turns the head. It's on a little ratcheted little thing there, and it doesn't turn all the way around. It stops at, it's like an exact 180-degree angle right there, so that's not bad. And then you can see these two little points here. Push them in. Oh, well, you can probably guess. There it is. You got the two spring-loaded shooters. So there it is for the plate functions. It's not bad. It's pretty interactive. It's very easy to move around. That piece came out. It's very easy to move around, and pretty much exactly the same as this guy. I did actually, this was missing pieces, and right before the video, I replaced a few pieces on this guy, so if you notice anything that looks different or incomplete, that's because it is. But I just wanted to show you guys what these guys look like together. They are, in a lot of ways, almost exactly the same. Very, very similar. The biggest difference is here in the body, and of course there's some different sort of plate detailing by the head. But yeah, the body is a little bit different, not that different. There's just a little bit more. Some of it's cosmetic. Actually, I mean, technically all of it is, I suppose, but it just goes into a little bit more depth in terms of how they've changed up the things here. There's just different detailing for the legs, but for the most part, it really is pretty much the same structure. I'm pretty sure I changed 1 or 2 pieces out on the legs on this here and there. But yeah, for the most part, this is pretty much a rehash of the 2016 model. And, you know, like I like that there's different colors and stuff, but sort of the classic guy in me just would like to have, you know, a cool standard ATSD because it's from scenes that I know of. I mean, this might be a really cool part, and I probably will appreciate this look for the ATSD after I see the show and see what it's actually based on. But right, so this sells for $50 or 50 pounds or 60 euro, and it comes with the 4 figs, all of which are exclusive. And this came with 3 exclusive figs, came out 3 years ago, and sold for $40, 45 pounds, or 50 euro. So $10 less 3 years ago, 1 less exclusive fig. And one of those exclusive figs was the pilot, which was only slightly different from other pilots. So the figs are better here. The look is fine, but it is kind of the same sort of ATSD. I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Let me get all of the figs back together in one shot so I can give you my final thoughts. So here we have the whole set together. Not a bad set, but also not that different from a set that came out not that long ago. Personally, I think it's still fine. I still think people will enjoy this. This is still a good playset regardless of the fact that it's been done before, and it's $10 up from 3 years ago. Comes with 1 more special fig, exclusive fig to the set, but in general, I just like all these figs a lot more than the figs that I got from the Rogue One based set from a couple years back. So I still think it's a pretty good one. I know people in general do like to see sort of new things coming from the Star Wars IP, and it is a little bit kind of underwhelming to get something that is so darn similar. But that's generally my opinion. I still think it's not a bad set all in all. One of the things that Lego commonly does is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We got like, I don't know, 4 Millennium Falcons or 3 Millennium Falcons that were really, really close to each other. So that's just part of it. I think they know people like the ATSD. I think they know people like the Mandalorian. This made a lot of sense. And yeah, so anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and we will see you next time at BrickVault.